Nick, I've done enough bad podcasts in my life that I think it's pretty evident I'm not going to make it to heaven. This week, we discuss the Creator.
Well, that just sounds true.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's another episode of Two Peas on a Podcast. Gerald is here with you, and man or machine, I'm not sure, right across the way. Joining me yet again is Nicholas. What's up, brother?
0000001 0000011 0000011
Yeah, there he is.
What's up, buddy? How's
What's
it
up,
going?
man? Gareth Edwards, the Creator, we're discussing this week.
Ooh, I'm ready. I'm excited. I've got my Jerry Gergich pop figure here. I don't know why I picked that up to show it to y'all, but there it is. There he is.
Interesting choice.
Yeah, you're welcome. So, speaking of this, sad thing is speaking about movie stuff, and I just never got a chance to get around to it. And this weekend, I was so exhausted this weekend, I never would have been able to do it anyway. But they actually, I got Uncle Rico here.
Yeah, you do.
From Napoleon Dynamite, and they were here. They were here in Ithaca this weekend. John Heater, John Grease, John Heater, and Efren Ramirez were here, and they down at the State Theater. They actually did a Q&A thing with.
Oh wow!
They played Napoleon Dynamite, and they did a Q&A thing. I learned about it months ago, and then I really wanted to go, but I never bought tickets for it because I just kind of never bought tickets for it because my life is a literal whirlwind of chaos all the time. And then if I had bought tickets to it this weekend, I'm gonna be Hundy P. I probably wouldn't have gone because I am so absolutely just ripped of any kind of energy whatsoever.
Yeah, we were talking about that before we started recording. I'm in the same boat, man. I don't know what is going on the last few weeks, but I'm just so tired. I mean, a lot of it has to do with my kids, let's be honest. But aside from that, I'm not quite sure, but I'm with you. But hey, we had to get together and talk about this new, what people are calling a sci-fi classic, Nick, and one of the best sci-fi movies of the decade, and a masterpiece. We'll put a pin in it. We'll get there. We'll talk about the Creator tonight. But before we get there, Nick, and we give our thoughts on the film, we always start every episode with what we call one big question.
You gotta ask yourself a question.
I have a lot of questions. Number one, how dare you?
How dare you, indeed?
How dare us? Well, one big question every week. We pitch each other a question that is somewhat inspired.
Feed it to
by
me.
them.
I need it.
By the movie that we are reviewing. So my one big question for you, Nick, in thinking about this film, The Creator, and really just kind of, even if this film didn't exist, just the kind of rise of AI in the last year or two. If in your life you had the ability to capture artificial intelligence to do something for you that you do yourself currently daily, just a daily activity, what would you want AI to do for you so you could take that off of your plate and not have to worry about doing it yourself?
Content editing. And don't tell me that you don't like that answer with also having to edit the video for this show when it goes up on the tube. Yeah, content editing. If I didn't have to edit content, granted, I mean I could hire a human editor to do it as well, but I don't make any money from content production, so that'd just be money I'm burning pretty much.
True.
But yeah, that would be I could make much more content if I didn't have to do it. What about you?
Well, for me it's stupid, but it's grocery shopping. And when I say this, let me just tell you, this is all encompassing. So this is the AI would know what I need in the house. Okay, maybe it would be once a week or something like that. And it would know what I need. It would know what we were out of, what we're running low on, our inventory. And it would make the list. It would do the shopping. It would bring it home. It would put it away. I'll pay for it. You know what I mean? I'll give it my credit card or whatever. But I can't. I had to go to Costco today and the grocery store today with my kids. And that's actually what made me think of this question. I just need AI to start doing this shit for me.
See, I
Is that
can't.
too
I
much to
can't do
ask?
that. I can't do that because like I got to be in the place with the food.
I
and,
know
like,
you're a food
I
guy.
like
I
to
know.
put together like my different recipes, and I like
I
to try
know.
to think about what am I going to make, and then I'm like, ooh, let's do this, but I'm like, ooh, let's add this to it, and like I'm just
I know.
grabbing like various different things off the shelves. Consequently, I probably take much more time to grocery shop than you do, so I would benefit more from having AI help in that sense. But it wouldn't. It wouldn't necessarily. It wouldn't necessarily benefit me. I don't think in that way because it would remove the creative aspect of.
I
That's
know.
why it's an interesting question to answer because even when I said content editing, that's almost not a good answer for me either because editing is my favorite part of any creative process, and I think that's when you make the true magic. I think that's when you make good content great is through editing, and I think if you remove that like away from me, like if I didn't have that in my hand, now granted, could somebody probably edit some of the things I do better? That's a different discussion. That's a different argument. But just in terms of like the creative ways that I think of how I'm going to cut this or how I'm going to do this, I don't even know if I'd want that taken away from me. I'm changing my answer to nothing. Nothing.
Can you repeat all that because I
Sleep.
edited everything out that you just said?
Wow. Wow. Sleep. That's what I'd have AI do for me.
There you go. Sleep. Yeah, that'd be good.
Sleep. Can it sleep for me? Can it or no, you know what? Maybe like if I'm hitting my track my calories, is that a thing? Because I hate tracking calories. I want it to track my calories, and then as soon as I go to take a bite where I'm like over that calorie, it just whaps the fork out of my hand. Maybe
Sure,
the fork
yeah.
has AI and it just jumps out of my hand and runs away, or
I mean, let's
stabs
be
me
honest,
in the
all-
leg or something. I don't know.
All this is going to happen at some point, so let's we're just ahead of the curve. So I think that's something that's doable for sure.
Does the fork
So
talk to me?
What's that?
Does the fork talk to me? Is it like Beauty and the Beast, basically? Did we just write Beauty and the Beast? Like,
Oh, we did.
but like a machine, like robot version of it in the future?
They're dancing on the tables and doing musical numbers. It's great.
Gerald's going to play the Beast. They're not even going to have to do makeup.
Oh man, you're so sweet. What question do you have for me, buddy? Did you get one for me? Hit me with it.
All right, so mine G's a little bit like philosophical. All right, so like you mentioned like how AI has become like this more prominent thing over like the past year or two, and it seems to have driven this alarmism from some people for whatever reason because they watch like Terminator and The Matrix and are just assured that the machines are going to rise and murder us all. So seeing this movie, and I mean, we'll talk about more specifics of this movie when we get there, but this movie very much wasn't that. That's a little bit what I was expecting when I sat down to watch it. But I want to know, what side of the fence are you on? Are you an alarmist who thinks that AI is going to murder us all? Or are you like, or do you believe that it will somehow work in synchronize with mankind, like beneficially, whatever?
Man. Wow, what a deep discussion this could be because I've never really had this discussion with anybody, like just having a conversation about it, even though I kind of think about it frequently, being in, doing all this editing that we were talking about and on YouTube, and AI starting to be incorporated into a lot of different things that we kind of have our hands in. So I don't think I'm at the point in my head where it's going to be like the Terminator, or, Rise of the Machines. I don't think I'm really afraid of that happening. Could that happen? Am I a person that thinks that's possible? I think that is possible hundreds of years from now that something like that could happen. But it's weird because even those kind of fears that are still kind of exist there for me, it's very exciting with the technology and the things that are being done. And I don't know, man. It's like one of those things where it's like I love it and I kind of hate it. It's strange. I'm kind of middle. I'm kind of in the middle, to be honest. But
Yeah,
I'm not an alarmist where I think, oh my God, we're all going to die because some code is going to write us off the earth. I don't think that. But I do see some of this stuff, like the deep fake stuff, where people are being like, celebrities are being like mimicked and stuff. And I just saw Mr. Beast. Somebody sent out like a video to a bunch of Mr. Beast followers of him saying that he was going to give them $10,000 if they did X, Y, Z, and it was all fake, and it looked like super real. So that kind of shit, like, I don't like, and it worries me, and how that's going to kind of be regulated. But I'm not an alarmist, to answer your question. I don't think the machines are going to kill us. What about you?
Definitely not an alarmist. No, I think that being alarmist about such a thing is kind of silly and overblown because here's the thing: if it's gonna happen, you can't stop it anyway. Like it's gonna progress on whatever track it's gonna progress on. So just live your life the best you can. Just live every day the best you can. Make the best of every day of your life, and just hopefully it'll be. I think a lot of people look at like mankind and look at a lot of life a lot more cynically than I do. I tend to really think that despite everybody's like, oh my god, we're living in like the worst time and it's the worst, everything's terrible in 2023, like it's literally the worst. And I don't necessarily think that. I think there's a lot of good people out there. I think there's a lot of good in the world. I think it's not maybe as easy to access as just you flip on any kind of social media and negative trending. Like, I mean, there's whole platforms of things like just rage content where people just post stuff to get engagement just to piss people off because they know that people are going to respond to it and people are going to like engage with that, and it automatically drives views, and like there's just content farms that just pump out like garbage, like all that kind of stuff. Yeah. And I mean, it's a lot easier to see that because social media rewards that kind of thing, and like people are always jumping on like anything negative. But I think there's a lot of good in the world.
Yeah, to your point though, ironically, that's AI in a lot of cases because the social media is using those AI generators to kind of get that code to know like what people want, what they watch, and what their history is, and
I still think it's really cynical. I still think it's really cynical to believe that the world's going to be what you're going to make of it. So just do your best to make the world a better place every day in whatever tiny little way that you can, and do your best to make your life leave some kind of positive impact behind you. I guess that's the most you can do.
I like it, man, and I'm on board with you there. So that was our one big question for this week, Nick. Thanks for that. Now, we're getting into the creator here, so we're going to try to make the world a better place for the next 30 or 40 minutes as we discuss this movie. I'm excited to see what you thought of it. But before we dive into the deep discussion, we give our score top out of 10. We didn't tell each other. We don't know what each other's score is. We're going to give our individual scores out of 10.
Damn it, this always happens. I think I'm going to score, and then I never score.
So you ready, baby?
Fair.
You ready?
Here
I want you to put it
is.
up. 1, 2, 3, 6.
Wow,
out of
I'm
10.
surprised. 6 out of 10 from you. 7.
You're terrible.
7 out of 10 from me. I got to use the same sheet of paper I used last week, by the way.
Now, Gerald, we've done this math before on the show. That's 13. Can you get it from there? You got it? It's 26. Just multiply it by 2. Yeah, you were on the right track. Just multiply it by 2.
Wait. It's 26.
Denominator. Do a fraction. Decimal point.
No, wait a minute. It's 13, right? So what's that?
It's 6.5, Gerald.
Oh, 6.5. You threw me with the 26. I'm like, wait, what?
Jeez.
We gave this a 13. All right. What is that? 6.5 cumulatively from the Peas on the Crater. Dude, I'm surprised. So this is spoiler free for a few minutes here, Nick, on Gareth Edwards, the creator. So I want to hear what you have to say, your initial thoughts, because I'm a little surprised. I thought you were going to walk away just with a love fest with this thing, because I know you love Edwards. We talked about that a little bit last week.
Yep.
And this, for whatever qualms we may have about this when we get into it, this is a pretty original sci-fi film. It's not,
Is it, though?
A franchise. Well, I mean, it's not attached to any other,
Okay, it's not a franchise movie, but that doesn't make it original.
Oh boy, here we go. So so tell me your initial.
That doesn't make its story necessarily original. We've seen this kind of thing. I
agree.
Like I saw like a lot of different comparisons. I was like reading like different reactions to this movie and stuff online after I saw it. I saw a lot of comparisons to James Cameron's Avatar, and I 100% see those. I definitely think the film has some good performances. And I think the film, the effects of the film are fantastic. Like the robots and the synths and all that stuff. Or what are they, like the people? Like they're sort of people, but they're not. But they have like the metal, whatever. Like all the effects look really, really great. Like it's really, really wonderfully done in terms of effects. story is not necessarily knocking it out of the park, and this is the biggest issue for me that I have with the movie. And there are some contrivances in this movie that pretty much made me audibly groan in the theater. I'm still going to pass it because I enjoyed a couple of the performances enough, and I was along for the ride enough with like the effects and all that kind of stuff that I still think it's an interesting watch. But the story's not going to take you any places that a different story hasn't already taken you. And yeah, you got to swallow some big pills down the stretch with this thing. And it's kind of...
That's the thing for me too. We're eye to eye there because where this movie misses for me is the story, is the dialogue, is the script. It's pretty paper thin. Visually, and knowing that this was made apparently on an $80 million budget, and you and I, when we started this show, watched The Flash, which was like 3 times that. I mean, this is like, if you put those two movies next to each other, one of them looks like a cartoon from the 80s, and that's The Flash, by the way, and one of them looks like a futuristic freaking masterwork of visual effects. So
how dare you besmirch cartoons from the 80s like that?
I know, right? So I don't know, man. I really, really liked it for the way it looked, and it was stunning. I thought John David Washington was a bit dry, but I think he kind of always is. Like, he's a very, I mean, Black Klansman aside, maybe he's always kind of a unanimated kind of character actor. You know,
I think the problem is I think he was uneven. I think that there are certain aspects of his performance that I feel really invested in. I think there were other aspects of his performance where I just felt like it was like, I don't know if that was maybe Edwards that was part of that or whatever the scenario was, but it's like, man, was that the best take you had of that one? You could have used a different read of that line or something. Maybe, like you said, maybe it's the dialogue, maybe it's just a little bit like clunky and doesn't flow as well as it should to really be delivered with how it needs to. I don't know. I don't necessarily know, because like you have Allison Janney like showing up in this as kind of the antagonist in the movie, and I mean, even Allison Janney, who is an absolute masterclass unto herself, is kind of flat in this. Like, kind of flat. Like, I don't think her performance is really... I think she's doing her best she can with the material, but I don't think the material is really helping her.
Yeah, let's peel back the spoiler warning here, Nick. So going forward, there will be spoilers for The Creator. If you have not seen it, come back after you see the movie or skip ahead to the end of the episode. We're going to be spoiling this thing as we continue to talk. So just to touch on what you just said, though, about Allison Janney, I thought her character in particular was probably, aside from the young kid in the movie, the main little girl, aside from her, that was probably my favorite performance in the film. But I do feel like that character got away from itself. Like in the first half of the movie, she was much more interesting, I thought, and Allison Janney was able to kind of like, because she has a really kind of interesting backstory to why she hates the robots so much and why she hates AI so much. And her character's name is Howell, by the way. Yeah. And we really kind of learn that. And as we learn that, we kind of sympathize with her and we kind of understand why she's being such a bitch, if you will, in the movie. But then when we get to the second half of the movie, she just kind of turns into this like,
a mustache twirling scenery chewing villain. Yeah, pretty much.
Exactly. And we lose that connection to our main antagonist in the film, because then it just becomes like, oh, this is just any other fill in the blank, villain from any other sci-fi movie.
Well, I think
I hated that.
The film shifts its perspective pretty abruptly once you get like a certain distance through the film. It completely shifts because, of course, you start off the beginning of the movie and Los Angeles was nuked. It was AI's fault, so now we're at war with AI and AI sucks and we're going to go get AI because AI sucks. And basically that's our perspective for the beginning of the movie. Like, well, yeah, AI caused this thing, like killed millions of people with a nuclear weapon. Like, of course we're mad at AI, of course we'd want to like go and destroy them and do all these different kinds of things. And that's when you get like that one tiny little nugget from Colonel Howell about why she hates them so much and everything like that. And then we get like that opening sequence of John David Washington and Gemma Chan and their characters, and like all those different things. Like, we're, as the audience, like, Edwards in this film is kind of playing, like I talked about that, like, you know, kind of philosophical question of people like being terrified that AI is going to murder, destroy, kill us all. I think that Gareth Edwards is playing with that idea in this script at the beginning of it, because he's kind of playing on the audience's expectation of that's what you're going in this film that you're going to see. You're going to see a film where AI is like gone rogue and is like coming after us and doing all these things. I certainly, like, from watching the trailers, that's definitely what it implies, especially like that big giant. What's Nomad is what that big giant spaceship is called, but then you realize that's not an AI ship. That's like the US's big, like, laser doomsday weapon that's hanging out up in hanging out up in space and everything. And when it shifts abruptly, like, into, like, you can't have her be sympathetic anymore once the film shifts into like its other perspective. And I think that's a disservice, because I think you really had an opportunity to have some well-rounded characters on both sides of this story, and it completely abandons any attempt at that pretty quickly.
Yeah, it's interesting too, because everything in this movie is the human's fault, right? It is mankind's fault. There's even a point when Ken Watanabe's character kind of tells us the truth about the nuke in LA, and it was actually human error is the reason why it went off. It wasn't AI that set it off.
Well, and just to that point, before you even continue, just to that point, that's one of the issues that I have with this movie is why is that little nugget such a throwaway line?
True.
That shouldn't have been such a throwaway, because it's the core of this war between like AI and humans, of like this event having happened. Like, I mean, like, why not explore that more? And I mean, I guess maybe the script wasn't wasn't interested in it.
It wasn't,
and that's
deep
fine.
enough. Yeah.
That's fine if the script wasn't necessarily interested in it, but like, I was kind of interested in that, and it's such a flippant way. He just kind of casually tosses it out there, and then the film moves on from it without even thinking about it for like another second. And I think, why mention it at all? Because we don't know. Like, he could have just been saying that to like get John David Washington's character on his side. Like, you never know. So I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. I think that the depth of the screenplay, or I should say the lack thereof, the depth of the screenplay is where questions like that kind of come up, because there could have been a lot more explored for little things that come up, but then they never advanced on. Like, it's just like, oh, you said that, and then that's it. Like, you know.
Yeah.
What about like the emotion of the film? Were you connected to that piece with John David Washington and the young girl in the second half of the movie? Did you? I don't know, that, like, my son cried. He's 10 years old. We went to see it together last weekend, and he got pretty emotional at the end of the film. Maybe I'm a cold bastard, but I just didn't feel anything. I don't know. Am I supposed to? I mean, what about you? I'm curious.
So I definitely did. I think the one thing that the film really does right is it kind of brings those two characters close together. Now, we're going to talk about plot contrivances in a couple minutes here. I really do think it does an effective job of bringing those two characters together. And the young girl that plays Alfie, Madeline Voiles, phenomenal performance. Best performance in this film. She blows everybody else out of the water in this film. And I mean, I really, really think like she reacts like in like some of those moments with such emotional power. Like, there's so much emotion and depth to her performance. I really, really think that that's like the heart and soul of the entire film. So yeah, it definitely got to me at the end of the film because of where the story necessarily takes it. Now, we talk about plot contrivances, G.
Yeah.
Biggest problem I had with this film. Okay, two biggest problems I had with this film. Number one, it was his kid. I mean, not really, but it's sort of.
Well, the mind of his kid or whatever. Yeah.
And number two, well, it wasn't the mind of his kid. It was like literally it was modeled to be
right.
Built to be like his kid. And then number two, Maya surviving, and then Maya having built like it. And it's kind of like think about like Star Wars, and people complained like with Star Wars, you know, that like everything's got to be tied to the Skywalkers. Like, you've got to tie everything together to this one family. It's like,
yeah.
Why? Like, I found that to be so ridiculously contrived. It's like you're trying to evoke these emotions from me. Like, you're intentionally doing it. Like, you're not even trying to be subtle about it. And like, you don't need to do that. I don't think the film needs to do that at all. I think that Joshua and Alfie can still form that connection without it being like Joshua. And that's kind of the half of John David Washington's performance that falls flat for me, when he's literally just in this to just find Maya. Like, it's the whole entire thing that he's just in this to find Maya. I would really have liked it if, because there's one scene in the movie, like, I don't know, like somewhere in like the beginning of the second act or so, where he sees like these synth versions of Maya, like, because she donated her likeness at some point or something. I would have loved it if that would have been the end of his search for Maya, and it would have been like, oh, she really is dead. And
it's
just these robots. It's just these copies of her that they saw and whatever. But like, I hated the fact that they kept her alive. I really hated the fact that he was so stubbornly just searching for her most of the time. And I double, triple, quadruple hated, like, on the Nomad at the end of the movie, they just randomly happen to have a bunch of synths there. One of them happened to look like Maya, and they happened to bring it to life. Like, Alfie managed to bring it to life just so she could have a final moment with Joshua. So ridiculously contrived. Like,
it's
so
too much.
Absolutely ridiculous. It's like the film is bending over backwards to try to do these things, and it felt so forced and unnatural to me.
I agree. I think that's one of those things that may have played better on paper. Like, it may have read a lot better in terms, but when you're watching, because when I was watching it, and a lot of that happens in the final act, what you're talking about, kind of that culmination. And like I said, my son was emotional. I've heard that other people are emotional from it. The connection with the little girl and with
I definitely
John David.
did a bit.
Yeah, I get it. I get it. But in my head, as I was watching it, I was like, really? All this happened perfectly like this to create this moment, and at literally the end of their lives. I mean, I don't know. It was too unbelievable and too detached for me at that point.
I think a better thing would have been to take that character, like say he gets over there and he realizes, no, she really is dead, because we saw her like literally get like bombed. Okay, like she should have just straight up been dead, and then like he gets over there, but he finds out that, okay, it's not her, but it's a synth version of her. And then the synth version of her comes along with the two of them, and they have to become this kind of dysfunctional little family and like kind of learn to trust and love each other and take care of each other and whatever. And he kind of is at odds with himself because she's really dead, and he hates AI and like all these different things, but then she's AI, and now he has to, like, it's got Maya's face, and it's like all these different things. Why not have that be the thing? It's like bending over backwards to include a narrative at the end of like, all that stuff should have been on the cutting room floor. None of that was necessary. Absolutely none of that was necessary.
I agree with you. I put this movie, I'll just touch on it real quick again. We talked about it in the intro a little bit, but I think that this movie goes way above and beyond what was expected from the FX department visually. I think it's probably going to be nominated for visual effects this year.
It should be.
It really should be, especially based on the budget that they apparently had. I put it up there with, like, the Blade Runners of the world, any of the Star Wars stuff. I mean, it is like top tier visual effects.
I mean, you know what movie it reminds me of in terms of like the visual effects on a budget that's much smaller than you would think for how heavily like visual effects prominent the film is like District 9. Like District 9 was not made, it was what, $40 million or whatever, and it looks sensational. It looks absolutely incredible. Like, this is another film, of a kind of similar vein, but also it goes to show you that you can have mind-blowing, amazing, incredible effects and not and you don't have to spend $300 million like these comic book movies do.
I know.
Not to take a shot at comic book movies, because that's just cheap and easy, but I'm going to do it anyway.
Yeah, and I think I just wish the dialogue, and you mentioned the contrivances. I just wish it wasn't as forced at certain moments in the movie, because there were times in the film, and it was all anchored by Alfie for me, just like you said. I mean, when she was on camera,
sensational performance,
and when it was her story that we were tracking, like, it meant much more to me as a viewer than when we were following him trying to find Maya, because I did think it was ridiculous that she lived through that explosion or whatever. I remember thinking, like, what? And then the plot twist on top of the plot twist that she was actually what they call it, Nirmana, I think, or Nirmada.
Yep.
That she was actually Nirmada, and I kind of thought, so I thought I thought for a while, like, okay, is this his kid or is this their kid? But then I'm like, well, it's AI, so I guess that's not possible. It's a robot. So, but in a way, it kind of is, like you said. So that I kind of saw coming, and I kind of hoped they weren't going to do that, but they did. Wow. And then I kind of also thought, like, are they going to say she's actually Nirmata? And then, of course, they did. So I don't know. I just felt like it was a little predictable, I guess is the easiest way for me to put it.
It was definitely predictable. You could definitely feel that they were setting that up. And the film doesn't need to do that at all. I think, in fact, like, to watch these two characters who don't have any reason to team up together kind of be forced to rely on one another and trust one another in order to survive, and not having any connection whatsoever would have been even better, because it cheapens the whole message of, like, because there's definitely an anti-imperialistic and, like, anti-war kind of anti, like, expansionistic kind of idea in this film where, you know, it's critical of, you know, just, I mean, and, you know, granted, American foreign policy being what it is, you know, just bombing it because it's different from you. You know, I definitely think all those messages are seeded throughout the film as well. But I like I said, I think it cheapens this idea that, like, John David Washington's character losing everything that he has, losing his parents and brother, I think, because of the AI strike, or at least what he so thinks is the AI strike on Los Angeles, the nuke there. You know, he has to come to love and understand and go on this journey with Alfie, and it just cheapens it if you, it's also sort of your kid, but it's not, but it sort of is. And then, Maya's secretly been alive this whole time and is the one that created this robot thing. It's like I said, it's so forced. It's so ridiculously contrived. The film doesn't need any of it, and it would have been a lot better for, I would, two full points at least if you cut out Maya being alive, Maya being the one that created the little girl, and, like, them, like, the little girl being modeled off of their fetus. How do you even do that? Like, I don't even know. There's a lot of weird science and tech stuff.
There's
that you
a
can't
lot
really
of futuristic shit going on there for sure.
About the film. But I mean, yeah, that was really bad. And I think there's also other areas of the film that they kind of just, they dropped concepts that I was hoping that they would play a little bit more with. Like, they had that one moment where there was, like, the synth cop played by Amar Chadha Patel, and he gets killed, but then there's another version of that same synth character, I guess, that shows up at the apartment to murder, you know, to try to bring the little girl back and all these different things. You know, I thought, like, they could have maybe done a little bit more with the different, like we only kind of get little hints about, like, what the synths really are, or, like, what they can really do. And then there's robots in the movie that are completely different and whatever,
droids,
like,
or whatever, yeah, just
like straight up, like, actual droids and stuff, but still just, like, going about, like, normal human tasks like people, which I thought was weird.
Yeah, it was like a different evolution for sure. One thing I wanted to mention, though, that I did really, really like about the movie, and I wanted to get your opinion on it, and this is more just like a personal kind of, like, thing I kind of caught myself thinking as I was watching it, and I've actually reflected on it since I saw the movie a couple weeks ago. I thought it did a really nice job, and I thought Edwards did a really nice job of kind of, like, making me sympathize with the AI, that it would actually, like, how would I feel in that situation? So if I knew the person or whatever that was with me wasn't human, and they were an AI that was evolving, you know, based on whatever technology, I thought the movie did a really good job of making those AI characters very sympathetic and made them feel very real, and made it easy for me to connect to them much more than I did to any of the human characters in the movie. I mean, we already talked about Alfie. I mean, that's the number one example right there. And then Ken Watanabe's character too. Like, I really connected with him in the movie. I thought it was a great performance from him. But do you get what I'm saying? Like, I felt like even though there was all these contrivances and kind of misses with the script, the actors in certain roles, in certain of the AI roles at least, really worked for me. Like, I was really like, I wonder how I would feel if this was right in front of me, if I was experiencing this. And I feel like I would be connected to essentially a computer. You know what I mean? And it's just kind of strange to think of that.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't necessarily disagree with you, but I don't think the script is interested in you playing around in the space, as it were. It's interested in telling this one straight narrative. It only shows the AI in a sympathetic light. It only shows like the human characters as, you know, like I said, like the jingoistic pro-war, like let's go bomb all the AI like humans.
Sure.
There's no gray area to play around in the space or anything like that, where you could really analyze. Like I said, that's why I would have liked. They were kind of pushing Colonel Howell to be a more rounded character, but
Right.
then it's like you said, you know, you start getting about halfway through the movie, and all of a sudden she's literally just straight up like a mustache twirling villain, you know, with her like thug henchman to go run out and go do whatever.
I think it's right when she finds that cop that you were talking about, actually. That's kind of when it started to turn a little bit, and she kind of became a little less human and a little more.
It is,
like
yeah. Which
paint by
also,
numbers.
that's one of the other things that really bugged me about this movie. So like this whole, she's dropped into like this team is dropped in there to go find this weapon. Like they're searching for this weapon. They don't know what it is at that point. They're searching for the weapon that's going to be able to destroy Nomad and thus turn the tide of the war. Which is why you shouldn't sink like $1 trillion military budget into just one thing. That like I don't even know like why did nobody ever try to shoot a rocket at that thing? Like we never saw anything ever try to actually attack it, which I also think was a missed opportunity in this film. Like there's this giant death station raining death upon you from above. Like nobody even takes out like a rocket launcher and tries to just go pew and you know like like just to see if it has like some kind of defensive system to stop attacks from getting to it or whatever. Like nobody even tries to attack it. It's just there. It's literally just there, and everybody just accepts that they're just going to have hellfire rain down upon them.
I know, exactly. Yeah.
Just utterly
like, oh
ridiculous.
God, here comes Nomad again. We're fine.
But the whole team gets dropped in behind the lines and stuff, and she gets left behind, and she gets captured and arrested. But then, like the whole rest of the movie, her and her henchmen are basically just able to kind of operate like no problems. They never run into any other problems after that. Like they escape one time and then like they never have any problems after that. You know, like I said, I don't know. But again, this film is it's not really. I think there's depth to be looked at in it. I think it's definitely going for like different themes about, like I said, like anti-imperialism and different things like that, and you know, not necessarily judging something because it's different from you. I definitely think those themes are there, even though they hit the nail, like, you know, it really kind of hitting it hard with you. Like it's not painting in any gray areas, like I said. Yeah, I mean, God, I'm almost ready to drop this another point. G, stop trying to talk my score lower.
Don't do that yet.
Then you're gonna have to do math twice in one episode.
Oh God, please don't do that. I can't take that. I need an
I
AI.
I think it's enjoyable. I think for the effects, and I think Zimmer's score is good in parts. I don't think it's necessarily a home, because I didn't realize it was Zimmer, but I did notice it had a couple of really nice tracks that like hit crescendos at different points in the film that I really appreciated. And then I found out it was Zimmer. I was like, oh, okay.
Makes
There's a couple
sense,
good
right?
tracks in it. You know, and like I said, the effects and I think the little girl's performance is there, but yeah, I mean, just go in with your expectations checked. I am baffled to see. Of course, there's people online like this has also gotten like a ton of 1-star reviews, like people absolutely bombing it, saying it's the worst thing ever. Because
a lot of the stuff I've seen has been like high praise, and I mean, while I liked it and I enjoyed it, I mean, I would not put this anywhere near like top 10 sci-fi or anything like that.
Ours is the first middling reaction to this film that I've actually seen or heard.
Oh wow, okay.
I've seen a lot. Like I said, I was just looking through reactions to the movie, just like early reactions to kind of see like what other people had thought about it, and like a ton of 1-star reviews because everybody was like, "Oh my God, like America's bad. We get it. White people suck. We get it." You know, because they can't.
Sure.
Like, they got to have that blinder. Like, "Oh my God, I made a white person the bad guy in a movie." So like, they immediately are just like one out of 10. It's got an agenda. It's woke or whatever.
Yeah, I know.
But like, and it was either that or it was like 10 out of like this master. I'm just like,
well,
no, like this barely passes for me, barely.
Well, in wrapping up, I will say what kind of I think that's a great segue, because in wrapping up and giving my quick summary, and then if you have any last thoughts about it, visually, this is a 10 out of 10. This is a beautiful movie to look at. I mean, production design, the camera shots that they use, they filmed this in different angles. There were some callbacks to like 2001: A Space Odyssey, so there's some like nice nostalgic stuff in there that Gareth Edwards did. I think this is the best looking Gareth Edwards film. And I love a lot of his stuff. We talked about Godzilla last week and his
Better look at the Rogue One, man. Although
think so.
it did have that Uncanny Valley Tarkin and Leia in it, though, I guess. So that's an immediate knock against it for me.
And
but I
by
mean,
the
Rogue
way,
One, I still think Rogue One, like his use of scale and perspective in that movie were incredible.
By the way, this is a very similar story arc to Rogue One, by the way. I don't know if you noticed that, but like it's kind of like playing out at the same beats and stuff from a storyline.
Is that why Disney like made Dan Gilroy take over Rogue One because he wanted to have God, I don't even remember the characters' names in that movie now, but like were they supposed to all be each other's, like they were supposed to be a secret family too, that they were gonna shoehorn in like this giant contrivance into the end of the film?
Yeah, they were all up in Nomad sleeping.
All of them were Skywalkers too. Like all of the people, all the other people were Jalen Erso, and all those people were all Skywalkers too. And
hell yeah, we finally found out the connection. So I mean, but what I just wanted to say in wrapping up, I mean, aside from the visual components that were absolutely astounding, I mean, just brilliant, and the performance of Madeline Unavoiles, I think is how you pronounce it, was absolutely tremendously breathtaking.
Absolutely phenomenal.
Especially at that age. I mean, she's what, 8 or 9 maybe? I mean, it was crazy.
That's why I got so emotional at the end, because I mean, like she absolutely swings for the fences in terms of like the big emotional hits. And like contrivance or not, like when she's like literally like breaks down in tears, like screaming and crying, like at the thought of like her dad dying and like all these different things. It's heart wrenching. Like it really was heart wrenching. Like that's just such a genuine, like earnest performance out of that young lady. Just incredible.
And I agree. And I thought Gemma Chan was underused. I love her.
Wildly underused. That's why. Like why not instead of having her be comatose and dead like the whole time. Like, why not put a synth version of her in the movie that John David Washington's character has to try to come to terms with? Like, hey, I'm palling around with my wife, but it's not really my wife. But then we all get to see Gemma Chan the whole time.
Exactly, yeah.
Nobody's going to complain about that.
No one. She was great in this when she was in it, though, but it was really just that opening act. I mean, opening scene.
She was good. She was good for what she had to work with, but she really isn't in the film, like, at all.
So I just wish that, the screenplay had been better. I mean, that's the easiest kind of critique I can throw out there, the easiest way to put it. I just wish it had been a little more depth to it, and they would have explored some of these characters' avenues that they kind of hinted at, which was weird that they kind of teased us with different things, and then they never went back to it, like you said. But all in all, I just can't get away from how breathtaking the movie is from a technical standpoint. I mean, it's really, really phenomenal what they did. And if they did it on an $80 million budget, which is what I heard, honestly, I can't believe it. I still can't believe it. I mean, that's printed, that's out there, that's apparently what happened, but it's just it just goes to show you when you're passionate about a project like Edwards probably was, and you really have a vision, you don't need you don't need it. You don't need all this like vomit on the screen and all these loud colors, and like, just tell your story, make it look the way you want it to look, and I think he did a great job in that respect. I just wish the screenplay had a little more depth to it.
Yeah, I'm going to caveat that. Tell a better story than this one. Because films, like, listen, nobody's writing, like, fully original movie plots these days, all right? Most movies have the same basic plot and plot structure in a lot of ways. Or, what is the saying? There's like 5 basic plots for movies or whatever. Like, it doesn't have to necessarily step outside of that boundary, but you did not have to shoehorn in, oh, it's really his daughter. Oh, his wife was also secretly the creator of or I guess her father was, and then she became the new creator afterward, and like all these kind of different things. And
yeah, well, I mean, she was the one that created this super weapon, because
she created
Alfie was going to Alfie's technology was going to age like a human ages. She was going to age, but get more and more advanced with each year or whatever, until she ultimately would be able to control all the other AI and stuff. So it was like so in essence, she was kind of creating the next phase, I guess, of AI, which would have basically wiped out mankind, or at least that's what they Again, it's an avenue they don't really explore enough in
So
the movie.
much,
But
much space left unexplored in this thing, and I mean, really, that's why I got to give it a 6 because there's too much, in fact, left on the table for this, and it's not in a I loved it so much and I wanted more sense. It's in a you didn't even really fully develop or flesh out this world as much as you could have just in this script. I really feel like I don't mind movies just taking us and plunking us down in their world. I think that's good. When a filmmaker has the confidence in their material to just plunk us down in the middle of their world, and we have to ride along with these characters and kind of learn about their world as we take that ride. But I also think that there was just a lot of stuff left on the table. Like I said, one of the biggest groan inducing moments, aside from the stuff we talked about with the little girl being his little girl and all that, was like we mentioned that flippant line about it wasn't even AI's fault. It was just a human coding error. It's such a flippant throwaway thing. Mm-hmm. But again, it's like you said, they were making the AI look sympathetic, and it's like, yeah, because they're not giving you any gray area to play around in the space. They're just giving you just dead straight black and white. And I really think a better film gives its audience something to think about when they leave the theater. And I don't think that this film, that's the indictment. That's the sad indictment about this film more than anything. I don't think this film really gives you anything interesting to think about when you leave the theater. I really don't. I think it's pretty forgettable. And at the end of the year, we're going to talk about best movies of the year or whatever, it's not going to be anywhere near that list. No. It's probably not going to be near a lot of people's lists. Well, except for the people that gave it 10s out of 10s or whatever. But it's going to be pretty readily forgotten in the scheme of sci-fi, movies. It's just going to be kind of forgotten about.
Yeah, I could see that happening as well. Yeah. Well, that's our discussion on Gareth Edwards, the creator. It is a mild recommend from the P's at a 6.5, a 7
Very
for
mild.
Me, a 7 for me, and a 6 from Nick. I think you need to see it if you like sci-fi. If for no other reason to see what they did with the scope and the production design and the effects. I mean, honestly,
check your expectations.
Yeah, you're not gonna get anything story wise that even if you hadn't heard our review, you could probably figure out the story within the first 20 minutes of the movie. So,
yep.
The predictability kind of hurt the film a little bit for me too. But there you go, Nick. I did not throw up a comment section this week because I'm a POS. I had a rough week and I was tired and realized I didn't do it about 30 minutes before we started recording. So everyone listening, we will get back on the comment section next week. I'll make sure to put a post up. Speaking of next week, now we're in October, Nick. Did you get my text earlier, or are you going to be hearing this for the first time? But we're going to be doing
I got your text, but I forgot what it said.
All right, fair enough. I will literally read my text to you on air.
Well, I mean, you got to tell the audience anyway, so it's like you might as well just say it anyway.
I'll just say it, yeah. So we're going to have a run on horror movie reviews over the next 3 weeks leading up to Halloween. So after The Creator, we're going to be doing... Next week, we will be reviewing the new Amazon original horror movie called Totally Killer. Have you heard of this, Nick? Have you seen the trailer? Do you know anything about it?
I have no idea what you're talking about. Never heard of it.
Here's the log line. Okay.
No, I want to know. I don't want to know. I ain't even
just the log line.
I'm going to cold. I want cold.
All right. Okay. All right.
Brr, look how chilly I am.
Totally Killer next week, and then we still have on the horizon movie reviews for Saw X. And what else are we doing? And that's
Five Nights at Freddy's.
And Five Nights at Freddy's. Yeah.
I'm keen for Five Nights at Freddy's. I think I don't know what kind of tone that's going for, but I saw it was from the makers of that Megan movie, which I didn't see, but I heard that was kind of good. Very tongue in cheek and really kind of went for an over the top sort of thing. And I don't think you can make a movie about pseudo Chuck E. Cheese characters coming to life and murdering people and make it be serious.
Right.
So I'm really expecting something to be a little bit over the top and silly and have fun with it. And so I'm kind of keen for it. I'm really keen for it. I'm really keen.
And that'll be on Peacock as well. So it'll be in the theaters and on Peacock, which is interesting when they do the same day-to-date releases like they did during COVID. So we'll see how that plays out for the movie itself and the box office. But
yeah,
I'm excited to see it though.
That's a weird pull, y'all.
Yeah.
That's and we're gonna. It's for free on Peacock. They're not even charging a fee to watch it.
Well, I mean, you have to have Peacock Premium, which is I don't know, $7 a month or something like that. But I guess you could sign up for a free account, watch it, and then delete because they give you a trial. So you could technically sign up for a 7-day trial and then cancel it. So yeah, I guess you don't have to pay really.
I mean, that certainly is a business model to follow.
Yeah.
That certainly is a business model.
Well, you remember back in the Godzilla versus Kong, and I mean, all that went to HBO Max right away, but it was also during COVID, so it made a little more sense.
Yeah, that made sense because theaters were either closed or if they were open, they had like the seating protocols where they had like a third of the seats available and all that
that's
stuff.
That's the way me and you go to the movies still. When you and I go together, I sit on one side of the theater and you get the other.
I actually make Gerald sit down in the pit, like in the front corner screen, because I don't even want to. And then when he sits down there, the light like reflects off the top of his head and like shines in my face. It's weird.
Yeah, it's too much. So there you go, guys. The Creator and then some. Next week we'll be talking about Totally Killer. I'm going to have Nick talking about horror movies for the next 3 weeks after this. So that's going to be really exciting to see how he I saw X. You're more of a Saw fan than I am. So
I'm way more of a Saw fan than you are, although I'm way more critical of it than probably you are too. So
oh, okay, all right.
It's gonna go one of two ways, and we're dropping The Exorcist, huh? So I want your take on this. I want to know why we're dropping The Exorcist.
Well,
besides
I'll tell you
the
why.
fact,
it's for you because you love Saw, and
I'm
more excited to see Saw than I am to see The Exorcist. I haven't seen either one as we're sitting here.
I've seen reviews for The Exorcist Believer. And they're not good.
I muted it on Twitter. I don't know. I muted it on Twitter. I've seen some. I saw the Rotten Tomato score. So I know it's not all around.
Good.
It's not good. Yeah.
They are not good, man.
All right. Well, I mean, I'm going to see it. I mean, I'm going to watch it. I just don't think we can fit it into the show because I wanted to do Saw X because I know you want to talk about that, and I know you love Saw. So
definitely do want to see it. You know what I need to do? I need to because this takes place between Saw. Is it Saw 1 and 2 or is it Saw 2 and 3? I can't remember.
1 and 2.
Is it 1 and 2?
I'm going to watch the first one and then watch this one.
So I want to do that as well because I want to try to kind of re-immerse myself in that world. I used to do every single Halloween. I used to go through every October anyway, and I used to watch every Saw movie, every single one,
wow.
and then I'd go see the new one whenever it came out in theaters. But I stopped doing that after Saw 3D, I think, which was the 7th one.
I mean, to tell you, I just got this 8-film Saw collection on Amazon. It was $9.
You want to go
all 8 movies?
Go ahead in there and just take Saw 3D and Saw 5 and 6 and any of the ones with Costas Mandylor except for Saw 4 because I still like Saw 4 because I like the twist that it's happening at the same time as 3 because that kind of comes out of nowhere. I do like the twist in that movie, but any of the other movies with Costas Mandylor, please throw them straight in the trash where they belong because he is one of the worst actors I've ever seen in a film. Period.
I know you've mentioned it. You've mentioned
god-awful.
it a number of times. I mean, we're talking. I know that you feel that way about that. Let's just say that. I think you've mentioned that on every episode.
2 weeks, but I'm going to say it again.
I know you will.
Get ready.
I can't wait. I'm really excited to hear
I'm excited to see Tobin Bell back, though. I really am. I do love Tobin Bell as Jigsaw.
Me too. All right, well, that's in 2 weeks, I think. Next week is Totally Killer. I have no fucking idea. But next week is Totally Killer, so you have Amazon Prime, I hope. Check it out. And if not, I'll give you my login. Don't tell anybody. And we'll come back next week, and we'll talk about it. Nick, the Creator, man, thanks for joining me for it. And sorry it was middle of the road for us, but it was just okay.
Beep, boop, beep, boop.
All right, man. I'll see you next week. Totally Killer, brother. I'll see you then.